Hey, this is Christopher Smith from the American Cannabis Report. I'm the publisher, and we are here on Pro Cannabis Media, or PCM-TV. Today, it is my great honor and my great thrill to be interviewing Chris Eggers, who's the founder of CC Security Solutions, but he's got an amazing backstory as well. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Christopher. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
You too.
Good to see you for the first time. Isn't this the weirdest thing? Chris and I are on the State of Cannabis News Hour together. We report the news virtually every day, every weekday anyway, for almost the past year, and we've never seen each other's face.
It's so funny. We were talking about that before we went on live or record on air.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a weird new world, but really good to finally see you in person. I look forward to meeting you in person, actually. But yeah, we've been, I think since April, we've been talking a couple times a week consistently, at least.
Sure, absolutely.
Bringing the good news to the cannabis industry on the State of Cannabis News Hour on Clubhouse.
Well, I've always wondered a little bit about, because the part of the story that's current for you now, of course, as the founder of CC Security Solutions, that's interesting in itself. Like, we could talk about just that for a long time, but what I find so interesting is, how does a person get to where they are now? What is it that, what were the big steps? What were the turning points? I really would love to know a little bit more about your background. If you'd like to express and like to tell me, where you're from. Yep. How did you get to where we are today? I would love to know.
Awesome. I'm a total open book, so no question is off limits. I'm from Livermore, California. Okay. I went to Granada High School, and then I went to Chico State on a very small track and cross country scholarship. I ran competitively there for I was a 5-year college guy, and an All-American once or twice. Wow. And then I got into law enforcement shortly after that. In between, I was a nursing school dropout. I was in nursing school in Las Vegas. Didn't particularly at the time like living away from my family, and I dropped out. I was working at the hospital. I was a nurse's aide in surgery, and I had a family friend who works for the government and has, a lot of unique experiences. And he says to me one day, he's like, I think you'd be a really good cop, and I was like, no way, man. Like, no way, because my experience growing up with cops was they were the dudes breaking up my parties, and you know what I mean? Like, I was I was regular, I think I would describe myself as just a regular Joe, more or less, and never had much interest in law enforcement. But he's like, man, OPD is a little bit different. It's a little bit different environment. I think you'd like it. And I applied. Law enforcement's a super inefficient industry on multiple levels. And unfortunately, we see that play out time and time again. But one of the ways that they are extremely inefficient is with hiring and retention. And I got lucky to apply when there was this massive increase in hiring. So, before I knew it, I was, sitting day one in Oakland's Academy in downtown Oakland.
Wow. So I'm just happened to be glancing over your right shoulder there. There's a case full of medals. Now, did you win all those when you were running champion?
I did. I like to joke that some are filled with chocolate, and I stole them from other faster runners than I. But I did earn those. But the best thing in that frame right there is the first picture of our daughter.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. She's a little over 1 now.
Wow.
Yeah, and really excited. Totally, I totally resonate with parents and people who force you to listen to stories about their kids now. And
that's right.
And if we were in person right now, I'd have my phone in your face scrolling through photos of my daughter. So,
wow. So what I'm getting is that you are just a regular guy. You happen to be a great runner, I believe, and you obviously were rewarded for that.
Now only if I'm getting chased, Christopher, am I running?
That's right. That's right. And now here we are. Now we're grown-ups. Now you're moving into the world, and you find yourself getting a job with Oakland PD of all places. Now there's the white guy who's the track star, and now he's going to be in the Oakland PD.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you were, that do they start you like as a beat cop and you're, walking the street, or you're in a moving unit, you're in a car, or
Yep.
tell us
So
about that.
yeah, so the academy is what the academy is. It's a really, really good academy, really difficult. There are various levels of academies. Oakland has historically and consistently been thought of as one of the better regional academies. It's the washout rate is kind of high for compared to other academies, and it was really intense, but really good training. And then after that, you go into a field training program, and some pretty funny stories out of there. If we have time, I don't know, but you're basically with a senior officer. And in Oakland, you have 4 months of training. So you go first phase, second phase, third phase, and then shadow phase, which is back with your first phase officer.
Okay.
And I had this old school dude, man, really good guy, gave me no love. Some of the younger FTOs or field training officers, I would see my academy mates get much more help than I did. And it was at toward the end of the training, and we had developed a better relationship where we can communicate a little bit more than first phase, right? Where I'm like stiff as a board, yes sir, trying just to get through the day with my Pepto-Bismol, in my bag.
Scared to
death. And I was like, how come these guys are, my academy mates are getting more help, like they're getting cover. This guy wouldn't even get out of the car to cover me on a car stop, and he's like, listen, man, you're going to be on your own in a matter of weeks, and you're going to watch these officers struggle a little bit. They're going to want to buddy up and stay together because they don't feel super confident, in what their decision-making abilities are after this training phase, because you are on your own. It's not 2-man units. It's single person units.
Right.
And I felt much more prepared. I'm extremely thankful. He's retired now, and we still have a great friendship, and I'm very thankful for that experience. And at the time, I thought I was, given a raw deal, or, he was being extra hard on me. And at 26, I didn't understand the gift that he was giving me, that I understand now. I'm very thankful for that. And so you're on a beat, you're in a car, day one after field training, I'm in East Oakland by myself, trying to figure it out and make it happen.
Tell me about now. What's the time period of this? You said you were 26. I don't know how old you are.
Yeah, so I was in the academy in 2008. 2008, 2009 ish was when I was on the streets. As a rookie cop by myself.
Got it.
Out there in Oakland. And I did about 5 or 6 years there. So in Oakland, again, let me tell you about the inefficiency. A couple years later, they laid off 80 cops due to budget reasons.
Oh gosh.
And
okay.
I was one of 80 that was laid off, and I went to Millbrae PD, which doesn't exist anymore. Millbrae, California is essentially where you fly into SFO. If you fly into San Francisco, you're really flying into San Mateo County, and you're flying right across the freeway from a little affluent town called Millbrae. And so I go from, West Oakland and East Oakland into this town of Millbrae. And I was there for long enough for a cup of coffee until Oakland gave me my job back. And I went back. I really loved Oakland. I had a lot of really good experiences in the community, and people often say like, oh man, like, wow, Oakland, like people must really hate you, and must have been really tough. And there is an element of that, certainly. But my experience and the experience of a lot of my colleagues was quite the opposite, and it just kind of, we had the golden rule, and we would say, this was referenced in the Business Insider article, but in Oakland, we had the saying, I'd rather talk to you for 5 minutes than fight with you for 30 seconds, and so, de-escalation is a key term that you hear, more in recent years, but, I was learning how to de-escalate in 2009 because no one's coming for me. I'm out there by myself. You got to figure it out. And your reputation on the street is a currency that is extremely valuable. And so, an example of that, I give this example, towing cars. Okay. At some point during an arrest, you may have to, or elect to tow a car if it meets certain criteria. Okay. But one of the rules that we abided by was we would never, tow a car with a baby seat in it. It's just, I wouldn't do it, you know?
All right.
And so like that
All
kind
right.
of currency, that understanding of like, you know, listen, like we got stuff going on, like, yeah, okay, this cop wants to tow this car for this, or can tow the car for this. But, you know, as a human, you know, I see your car seat in the back, I'm not going to tow it. And
Wow.
so, you know, there was like, I really enjoyed Oakland, man. It's honestly one of my favorite cities. I'm lucky enough to work in it now as a security consultant. And I love the city of Oakland. It was a great experience to work for OPD. I have a lot of respect for the agency, and you know, there was a constant need to get better. After incidences, we would do debriefs. Rank didn't matter. Title didn't matter. You know, it was, you know, okay, Christopher, you were first on scene and you did X, Y, and Z. And next time it needs to be, you know, A, B, and C, and this is why. And Eggers, you were second on scene, and what'd you see and how, you know, and it was just an open dialogue. How can we get better as a squad? And we'd go our separate ways. And the next time something like that came up, we hopefully were better and more efficient. Not every law enforcement agency operates that way, unfortunately. And I don't want to speak negatively about any agency in particular, but I really enjoyed working for the Oakland Police Department.
I've got to think that working in any urban environment, anywhere in America, has got to have all of its own inherent challenges. There's poverty, there's crime, there's conflict. It's a tough part of any state to work in the deep urban environment, no doubt. And the idea that you guys were solutions oriented rather than combat oriented seems to have really guided what you did at the time, and it seems to have guided you even today.
Yeah, I think, you know, nobody's perfect, and I don't claim to be this person of perfection in law enforcement, you know, but we, you know, in general, I think whether it be, you know, athletics or professionally, I think, you know, I've always enjoyed working around people who want to continuously get better, and are open to that, you know, and open to feedback, open to dialogue. And, you know, Oakland is a beautiful, beautiful city, and it's no secret that it can be extremely violent. And so it's an interesting dynamic that, you know, as a young rookie cop, I learned to deal with and try to understand and try to add value, you know, and the mentality of like, you know, do what I say, I'm a cop, you know, it's not going to fly, you know, that's not how you, that's not the way that things were done. And that's not the way I think to get the best results. So, you know, it was a really good learning experience. And then I transferred to San Francisco PD after that. It's a completely different culture. You know, it's a different environment. They have different needs. They have different resources. It's completely different. And so one thing I like to share with people is just that, you know, agencies do vary, you know, officers do vary.
Sure.
I have coworkers that, you know, we could throw into this Zoom and you'd love them, you know, and I have coworkers where you'd be like, no, you know, and I'd be like, no.
Right.
So it's just, you know, I was lucky to work for 3 agencies and have 3 different experiences. I did spend a little bit of time working undercover for the Oakland Police Department, and learned a lot of interesting lessons there, and had an education that a lot of police officers don't get. I'm able to use that experience today consulting in a way that I think separates us and adds value to our clients in ways that other consultants just can't, because of a lack of that experience. And so I still have contacts that I reach out to that, you know, I'm you know, air quotes here, on the streets, and you know, have very different life experiences than I, or maybe you, that are a wealth of information and really good people that I've, you know, gotten to learn from and get to know. And it's, you know, some of that undercover work that, you know, allows me to sort of break down some of those barriers.
One of the things I've liked about you so much, Chris, is we've talked without actually seeing each other's face for the past year, basically, is that you seem to operate in a way that's based on principle, not based on profit. You know, there are some people in any industry, right, who they are masters at making money, and that's their goal, and that's what they try to do, and they can profit. They fall down and they wake up with money on their face, kind of those kind of guys. But you seem to operate in a very different way. In every single conversation we've had together, You always lead with the heart. You always lead with principle. You always lead with a belief in doing the right thing rather than the profitable or opportunistic thing. That's one of the great qualities that you have. That's what my observation. So I don't know.
Honestly, Christopher, you gave me goosebumps, man. I really appreciate the kind words. You know, like I said, I'm not perfect. Don't claim to be. Don't claim to have never made mistakes. But you know, I made a very conscious and interesting life decision to quit, you know, one of the highest paid police departments in the country with benefits, as we welcomed a daughter into the world to, you know, branch out and do something that I felt really passionate about, which was, you know, in part, entrepreneurship, in part, I knew I wanted to work within the cannabis industry, and I'll share exactly the story why.
Sure.
And, you know, the cannabis industry, I just got off the phone with a vendor. Okay. And I get calls like this a lot. They make a widget, whatever that widget is, whether it's a camera, access control, it doesn't matter. Right. And to your point about, you know, profit. Now, as a small business owner that's rapidly growing, one with a family, obviously, you know, we want to be profitable and we want to make money. But we want to do it in a way that is sustainable. And because I don't know what I don't know, I do lead with the best intentions possible. You know, I'm learning a lot as a business owner and a CEO and building out a team. I'm learning a lot every day, but there's a ton I don't know. And when I don't know something, I just fall back on you know, the pillars of the foundation of what I want my business to be, which is, you know, providing value to people, being you know, honest with folks, you know, and really listening to the needs of the cannabis industry. And, you know, we are uniquely positioned to look at security in a way that is much different than the status quo that I, you know, stand behind, that is sustainable, compliant, cost effective, and works over the long term. Several ways that we achieve that. But, you know, again, to reference the Business Insider article, they're now, love the writer, really good dude. Obviously it was written in as if it was my words, but it was based off of a conversation and an edited one. So
sure.
You know, but he got one thing, you know, spot on. And you and I both know this person, she's amazing. But to have the respect of of folks who have helped build this industry, from legacy to legal, means the world to me. And that's a currency that is invaluable, similar to, you know, what I talked about working in Oakland, you know, and your reputation on the streets. You know, this industry was built by people who have had their doors kicked in, that have gone to prison, that are still in prison, that have, you know, fought a really good fight throughout the years to allow now a former cop to be on a show like this, orbiting with folks like yourselves. That's the biggest compliment that I could be given. And so, again, you know, I think we're chasing a little bit different carrot than other security consultants in the space. The conversation I just wrapped up with this vendor was, you know, we're not, we don't make recommendations based on what our commission split's going to be. That's not how we operate. I like to say that we're a true independent security consulting and risk management firm, and you can't take that away from us. And so when I make recommendations to my clients, you know, I believe, and I know they believe me, that that's the best solution for them. And so, you know, that's the way that I sort of had the idea in my mind of how I wanted this business to work and operate. And I think that fits the needs of the industry. I don't think that they need, you know, the camera person coming out there and just selling them the widget. And that's a piece of the solution, but that's been the main reliance for so long, similar with guards. And you'll see a blog post on my site I just posted. And then there was a MSN article that came out talking about in San Francisco, the need for oversight on private security, because they're overstepping their boundaries in ways that we've seen law enforcement do over the years, right? In some of the worst ways. And so, you know, getting away from the status quo with respect to security in the cannabis space, I think is massively important to moving this industry forward in a way that's sustainable, compliant, and works.
A couple things I think, I don't think anybody can learn your story without having that, like, I wonder how this happened moment, thinking about you. Here's a guy whose career and life depends on following the law, defending the laws as they're written, and cannabis was on the other side of that, right?
Yep.
You know, you were probably tasked with arresting people for all sorts of things related to cannabis. And now here you are on the complete other side, defending the business and defending the people in the business every single day. That's a big trip, right? I mean, that's a major, major journey, you know? And so I'm just wondering, like, did you just, when you were a cop, when you were maybe you were undercover, did you just one day say, you know what, I'm on the wrong side? I see what these people are doing. I see what they're up against, and I'm reading the law, and I can't be on that side anymore. Did you have one of those moments? It was like an epiphany, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I have a family member who struggled with alcoholism for a very long time, and I'm gonna try to keep it together on this one.
Okay.
I have a very close family member struggled with alcoholism for a very long time. I lived with my family, and we had a great relationship growing up, and one that means the world to me. And unfortunately, the struggle with alcoholism tore a lot of our relationships apart. And it was very difficult to watch and be a part of in some capacity for a long time. And, to lose somebody who's not like deceased, like to lose somebody who hasn't moved away, to lose that relationship stung me in ways that it was very difficult for me personally, and it wasn't even it wasn't my struggle. Can you imagine the person, right? Like who is dealing with this? And I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. This person is wildly successful on any barometer that matters. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He's a great brother. He's a great cousin. He's a great friend. And it's because of his relationship with cannabis that helped him, overcome his battle with alcoholism. And I always say at the end of that I am not making a claim that, cannabis cures alcoholism, but I am saying that I can point to one relationship in my life where I saw cannabis benefit somebody immensely. I mean, unreal, right? And I wasn't shocked by this. Listen, before leaving law enforcement, the last time I smoked weed was in Chico, California. And you had two choices, good or bad. Okay. So, I had dabbled a little bit, but it wasn't a big part of my life, but it was a big part of this person's life and still is to this day. And, to have that experience is one that I'm very, I think the word is thankful for. I'm very extremely blessed and thankful for where our relationship is today, and to watch how, his evolution and his progress has benefited multiple other relationships in his life, as well as mine. And so that's one sort of like, okay, I'm looking at things a little bit differently than the police course that I'm taking, where they're telling me that cannabis leads to all this opioid use in San Francisco. And that's a real story. The very last class that I took before quitting the force was cannabis DUI, which I did just, to be honest with you, Christopher, to get out of work for a day and go up to Mendocino, and we stayed in me and my wife stayed in a hotel because I was already a certified drug recognition expert at this point. So that course to me was elementary. But I took it because I was curious and I knew I was quitting, and I wanted to see what they were teaching about cannabis. And it was the term we hear in state of cannabis a lot is, reefer madness, right? And that's what it was. The instructor pointed to me specifically with the SFPD name tag on my desk and said, cannabis is the reason your city is the way that it is. I'm like, I don't want to cuss on your show, but this is BS, and that's a state certified course. And so there was another light bulb in my head where I'm like, the disconnect between this industry, which is going somewhere, right, and benefiting so many people on so many levels,
right?
Jobs, health, community benefit, just to name a few. And over here, you have law enforcement who's tasked with the regulation. And that's a side of the world that I know like the back of my hand. That's like breathing to me. And there's this huge disconnect, and I find myself uniquely positioned right in the middle, right? And then the very final straw was, please forgive my, how much I omit about this, because I'm still processing how I want to tell this story. But I had a conflict with a supervisor who thought I should have used force when I clearly didn't need to. And again, I'm going back to my Oakland days, right? Where I didn't see cops throughout my shift every day. I didn't have 5, 10, 15 cops showing up at my scene. I mean, I was at shooting scenes with me and a sergeant, and that's real. And I'm not saying that that's the best way to police or anything like that, but the resources in Oakland at the time were thin. And so you operated solo, and you learn a lot doing that. And one thing you learn is, when I should and should not touch somebody. And in this particular day, there was no need to touch that person. And the supervisor tried to really overstep their boundaries. And I called him on it and did, exactly what you would want an officer to do in that situation, because my fear was that, hey, listen, if this was a younger officer that was more impressionable, they would have thought, oh, okay, next time I'm in that situation, I'm getting down, I'm gonna handle business. And listen, in law enforcement, there is times that people need to touch people. I mean, that's no, not always, but there's times you need to touch people. And this was not one of those times. And nobody can tell me when I should use force or not, because I need to articulate it. I need to justify it. I need to stand behind it, and it needs to be lawful. And it wouldn't have been. And this is pre George Floyd, by the way. Okay. And my partner felt the same way. So you'll see us on video, and I will share this with you at some point. I'll give you the whole scoop, because I've got a video, the interviews and the whole thing. And it's a very interesting case study. I think, I don't know if I should call it a case study, but it's a very interesting experience that I had. And it was more or less that time when I was like, okay, this is not the place for me, and I had thought about, venturing out on my own. I had even taken interviews for the experience at different consulting firms and places around the security world, put my feelers out there. COVID hit, so it pushed my timing back about a year. But those are 3 major light bulbs that happened to me in my career. And some of my coworkers are reading the Business Insider article now and are like, that guy never worked undercover. And it's like, listen, we never bothered.
Yes, I did.
We never bothered to get to know each other. You never bothered to get to know me. And I can say that I didn't really bother to get to know you either. But a lot of folks in San Francisco probably don't know my history in Oakland and my relationship with that city. And my love for that city. And I love Oakland, or I love San Francisco. I made great relationships within the SFPD, and I'm not saying anything as a blanket statement about the SFPD, but another experience I had as walking a foot beat was walking out of a dispensary, checking in on them. Hey, how you doing? I'm Chris. I'm the footbeat guy around here. Here's my card. I usually hang out over there and I get my coffee over there, and let me know if you need anything. And a supervisor, a sergeant, rolled up. He waves me over to his car. I walk over. He's like, man, don't go into those places. I was like, no, you don't get to tell me that. And this is kind of how I operated in San Francisco too. Supervisors like to give you direction that they can never have to own. Okay. Yeah. And an example of that is this. And I said, listen, if that's the way you feel, write me an email, document it, memorialize it. Let me have something that I could say, you specifically as my boss told me not to go into that tax-paying business, when you're just now going to go send me to the Gap down the street. They're both retail. To me, it doesn't compute. And I don't think it takes a cop or not a cop to get there. I think it just takes a reasonable human to be like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And
one of the things that I read in your story, in the one that just came out, there's a couple about you actually, which is you're building quite a little portfolio, not bad. But one of the things I read about you that I thought was so interesting was that you said you learned a lot from people who are on the other side, and that it helps you do your job now to be able to talk to a robber and talk to a burglar and say, how would you do this? Or what do you think about this shop here? Or what's vulnerable? Like, you're really going to the other side. Like, it helps you do your job better because you have that kind of relationship with people who might be doing the bad side. And you're able to use that information to help the clients that you work for. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, security consultants, similar to like an insurance world, have various initials you can get after your name, and there's a lot of value there, and I'm sure that experience brings a lot of value to their clients and how they touch the space as well. But, those initials are earned in static, sterile classroom environments at the end of the day. Right. And I took one of those courses once while I was a cop, and the person next to me is taking notes, and they're listening to the instructor and they're taking notes. The instructor's talking, they're writing, "Think like a criminal." And they like underlined it, I'm like, oh my gosh, man. Like, how do you read to think like an offender, and I don't like to say criminal, because I met a lot of people that are, committing, thefts and burglaries. And, I'm not a supporter of crimes against people by any means, but I can tell you that, not every person who's committed a criminal act is a bad person. Right. And so I had a behind the curtain view of a lot of folks that, police officers just don't get. And so, yeah, absolutely. That experience allows me to look at a space, look at a security plan, look at an environment with different optics. I look at it, with my security consulting hat on, I look at it with my police hat on, and I look at it with my undercover hat on. I like to think, but my clients would tell you that, yeah, that definitely helps bring value to them, which is, the most important thing, right, is to bring value to the client. And we talked about, commissions and things like that. But if you consistently bring value to people and treat them well and, are decent to work with, I believe, and my hope is that your business will grow organically. And especially in the cannabis industry, where, people had dealt with risk in different ways in the legacy market. Things that were going to hurt them or harm them or their business look different now in the legal market. But because I was a cop, and because I worked undercover a little bit, because I, am a subject matter expert in cannabis security rules and regulations, I can piece it together in a way that's a little bit unique. And I'm not saying it's, better or worse than any other consultants out there, because I know a lot that bring a lot of value. But that's my experience. That's been my journey. And that's, the direction that we're headed here at CC Security Solutions.
So tell me how the business is going for you. I mean, you're up on your feet, you're doing well, you're serving customers or clients. How's it going?
Yeah. Yep. We're growing. It seems like we're growing every week, learning
Great.
a lot, just took on an additional employee, really excited about that. And yeah, we have clients, we're getting more clients, and we have a lot of interesting irons in the fire. But again, the status quo of cannabis security currently is a Band-Aid patchwork stovepipe solution that doesn't really work, and it's expensive and it breaks down. And we're looking to change the status quo. And how do we do that? We look at insurance requirements, we look at risk mitigation, we look at limiting liability. We understand the limitations of law enforcement and various hardwares and guards, and really do a deep dive and discovery into a business, because every business is unique and not every business is the same. And every business has different risk profiles, and it's a matter of piecing it together. So I think what you see right now in the space is, a huge reliance on guards or a huge reliance on cameras. And what I want people to understand and take away from this conversation about security right now is that those are all pieces of the puzzle that need to get pieced together, in a very particular way. But if done correctly, can be extremely cost effective, sustainable, and compliant.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there anything that I didn't ask, anything I forgot to ask, anything that you would like to say in sort of in closing up?
I don't know. That's a tough one, because talking about yourself for me is a little bit weird.
Sure.
But thanks for making it comfortable. I'm just really thankful to be welcomed into this industry, and I've met so many amazing people, you being one of them.
Thanks.
We've Nicole West, Susan Soares, and all the correspondents on the State of Cannabis News Hour, which is Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Clubhouse.
Here he goes.
I have
good
to say
plug. Good plug.
But it's an amazing group of people. We bring people up from the audience. I've met a lot of people that I would have never met as a cop, and maybe they wouldn't have met me either, right? But I think that when we both come to the table with an open understanding, or a desire to understand each other, I'm kind of on that Ted Lasso tip right now, where curiosity over judgment. And I've been extremely judgmental at periods of my time, and being in the law enforcement world, you at times can look at things, very one-sided. I talk to old coworkers, or I'm very tight with my old partner. He's one of my best friends, and you would never know this dude was a cop. People always tell me like, oh man, you're not like a real cop. I'm like, well, thank you. we could talk and get somewhere now.
Yeah.
And so, they're like, man, you look better, you sound better. And I'm like, how is it on the other side? I'm like, man, it's awesome. There's a lot. I've been really fortunate to meet some amazing people, and I'm just really thankful to be accepted into this industry that was built from the legacy market, and I respect it, and I want to add value to it.
I so agree with you, Chris. There's so many great people in the industry that are doing their business or doing whatever their involvement is from such a deep and profound and honest place, and the amount of help and the amount of life and support that can come from all aspects of the business are, to me, one of the things that have been most revealing in getting to know the people and getting to know more and more about the industry, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fascinating place, and it's changes every day, it seems. And,
right.
It's a tough place to navigate, but, again, we aim to bring that value to the industry of, that behind the curtain law enforcement point of view. That's a world, like I said, I know like breathing. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors over there. There's a lot of language that can be difficult to decipher, and it can be tough to interface and orbit around law enforcement and regulators. And there's a lot of miscommunication, and we want to help. I want to say bridge the gap, but what I really mean by that is I want to use that experience over here with the cannabis industry, and especially with respect to the legacy market and people coming into the legal market, to help them avoid landmines, that can happen. And, just that understanding of the regulations and regulatory world, I think is hugely important.
That's very cool. Well, listen, Chris, it's been great to have you on today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy. Clearly, you're even busier than I knew. So I really, really value your time. I value you so much as a person, and I'm so grateful and just happy that you're in the same industry with me, that you and I are getting to know each other, and that you'll be able to spread the like I said, I mean, I don't mean to sound trite about principles over profit, but just the way that you lead with your heart, and you lead with an open heart and trying to help people that are helping other people. I think it's really a great benefit to all of us. So it's been really great to get to talk to you. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for reaching out. It was an honor when you did. I was super stoked. I've loved getting to know you and love being on the show, and I'm super glad to be networking and orbiting with you. So thank you for having me. It means a lot to me.
All right, Chris, you take care and good luck.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.